Good night. So, as you understand, these are not good days at all. But I decided, and I'm very tired, but I decided to harness my energies as much as I can, and to, also I'm so sad and tired. And I decided to try to, to continue to speak about continue to speak about to continue the Ziggurat of Ur saga. Not exactly as I intended. Up until yesterday, that is all this called all this violence and fear. You need to understand that's my life, violence and fear all the time. But I feel the need to speak about to continue. So I'll do it while I will work on the starships. I bought new clay, so now I have more variety. I from experience, as I've said before, I like to try not to use, even though I've used a lot of and I've had hundreds of the eggs, the clay eggs with the robots inside. Most of it I stolen, or I destroyed. Most of it I destroyed myself because I didn't want to fall to the hands of the Shabak. Yes, I know it was a ton of money, but I knew it. It's not that I didn't know it, because it was a lot of money, but I couldn't get any shekel out of it. Not today, not then. Like 2 years, starting 2 years ago, and I understood that I'm hunted for these things, so I destroyed hundreds of these. Actually, this is sad but true, and just the way it is. So I had hundreds of such eggs, and I painted them with acrylic, all sorts of acrylic colors, but they didn't stood the test of time very well. And I think it's best to try to use non-colored mixture of natural and synthetic clay, and to try to use variety of synthetic clays. So here we have new colors that I haven't had before. So so it will be colorful, and we'll have a variety of options, but without the acrylics. I'm very upset. I have nothing to say to the Israelis, and this includes the titans of Israel. And I understood long ago that that they are beyond redemption, and and it's best just not to speak with them at all. But regarding people outside of Israel, I have so much my belly is full. I need I have so much even today, I've recorded a short video with complaints against them. But I must say that there is so much cruelty, and again, I should repeat very concisely. But although it's kind of it can be understood from the previous video. But the whole idea that they know about me, because they get the stuff like the Neos, the nanobots from me, of course, by the mediation of mediation of the Israelis that get all the money, and I receive nothing or advice. At best I get their advice, but no more than that. And it's so cool that for decades they treat me all over the world, both Titans and their, the other people in intelligence services that are all over the rainbow. They from their perspective, it's either the time the monster that the Israeli portrayed me, and this is so cool because they could have known. And I understood it on the first day of my journey on 2019 that if that the Israeli paint me like as a monster, but it doesn't make any sense. Both from like like internally, the CEO just doesn't hold at all. And although you can just gather evidence because I'm not a secretive person and I never was. It's not like a Mission Impossible movie or James Bond. It's just the very very straight person. The straightest person that yes, with all the meaning that he entails. Like served in the military, had a wife, like children, and kind of like studied in the university, and I was never secretive. And I published actually text in online, like in all sorts of stages. Way before the journey. Like I didn't start to write or to speak during 2019. Just that was part of like a journey that of discovery. But I've written like since like I was 5 years old. And you can actually understand it even if you don't know me at all, just by what listening to the videos that I'm like that speaking is not like something new to me at all. I've done it long before I've had any notion that I'm special and that I have a mission and a special relation to God and all the conspiracies. All of this started during 2019. But you can, understand very well that I spoke and like I had like experience to speak in front of people and to write in all sorts of like media long before that. So, and it just they didn't care because and this affected my life in such a horrible way because they bought like the videos and the stories from the Israelis, and that's why the Israeli kept like producing it, and this caused me so much pain throughout my life. You couldn't imagine. So much pain, so much sorrow. And there's like the other option that of like, okay, so he's not a monster, then he's kind of like a saint, which is also so cool. I really like the Jesus Christ Superstar movie. Like it was staged like musical, but they made a movie based on the musical that was shot like mostly in location. In Israel, and kind of I kind of like the way that the filmography of the movie and also the music. And actually, part of the journey was to visit all sorts of places in Israel that, as you can see in this, in the movie. It's not that difficult because they are all famous. So, so it's like there is the Dead Sea that I've been there a couple of times in the last couple of years. And so, the Dead Sea is the background for the King Herod's song. So like King Herod is kind of like so fat and like in self-indulgent. In all like in food and sex and kind of like and he treats Jesus like like kind of like a curiosity show. He wants them to perform magic for him and kind of like it's all kind of like a show, and they have like this entourage, kind of like a colorful entourage, and I sympathize so much. I more than sympathize. Like I find myself like in this position. So many times during the last couple of years. Like that I'm kind of I always tend to some kind of like a trial that has a tremendous effect on my life, and potentially it can kill me. And certainly it devastated me completely. And I'm innocent, and kind of like and many times the judges in this kind of like trial are all sorts of people all over the rainbow, like kind of like just in the movie, like self-indulgent creeps and the entourage of all sorts of like creatures from all over the rainbow that that are just they like, and this is in the good case that they do not think that I like want to think that I'm a monster. Like this is the good case. Like the better scenario is that for them I'm kind of like a curiosity in the whole of the whole of the mountain king, like whole of King Herod, like in his villa by the sea. So he's got like all sorts of like the diversity of like freaks in his entourage, and so he thinks that Jesus can be like should produce like fun show for him. And this is, and then of course Jesus does not become like his clown, and he's very upset, and he returns him, so he sends him back to Pilate, which is kind of like interpretation, of course, of the Gospels. Like it's actually a very close interpretation. With more color and and music. The lyrics are actually very smart. Of all this, the Jesus Christ Superstar musical, the lyrics are very very thoughtful. I'm very fond of the lyrics. So I find myself like in this position, like that. And this is the better case, that they do not buy the monster theory. So for them, life is kind of like a curiosity show, and this is like another curiosity that should like perform magic to them. But I'm a person. I'm kind of like they took everything from me. They torture me all around the clock. They treat me as farm animal. They torture me and my daughters since they were born. Why do you not understand that? And yes, my main complaint is towards the Titans outside of Israel. And I do understand that some of them probably don't know anything about me at all, and even barely know anything about themselves. And so, but these people actually do not listen to me now. How would they listen to this? The people that actually listen to this, to what I have to say, are most certainly part of intelligence communities all over the world, and they accepted that these robots for me like a farm animal. They bought it from the Israeli. They paid good money for it that I haven't received at all, and they enslaved me. And why this is so cruel. And I try to be like to be generous towards the Titans, like to say, okay, they don't know nothing about anything because there is so much disinformation. But even that, that does not justify their behavior. And I understand there is so much. I'm always surprised like how little people know about like dependent Venus and like it's amazing to me. And it's always that because initially I thought that every like people like just save the knowledge, keep the knowledge to themselves, but this is not correct. It's also correct because these are intelligence agencies, and actually one of my first conclusions regarding this world of the intelligence agencies is they cooperate much less than I would have expected. And I've spoken about it in the past, but it's just that people don't know nothing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's certainly amazing. In the case of the Israelis, because the Venusian exploitation is integral part of the culture for more than 100 years. It's part of Zionism, but they don't know nothing. And they don't want to know, and they just want to invent truths like according to their own whims and political kind of like whims. In each generation of this slavery. And so the Titans themselves, many of them don't know anything. Of course, there are all sorts of Titans. There are like very old ones and like female ones that very old ones that presumably they live in years like for a long time, and their life is completely not related to the Israeli saga. Maybe they even live in Israel, but or not, or but there are all sorts of options here, but. My sense, and it's only getting stronger with the years and the months and up to now that people just do not know anything. They have all sorts of crazy ideas and this amazes me, and I really don't understand how it came to be. Like why weren't they more curious? Because again, I'm not the genius, and I don't have like any experience in the natural sciences. I've studied computer science, but in university, but. This is all very theoretical. It's more like akin to mathematics, and so. But even just with the simple microscope, you can, and kind of like open mind, and you can reach amazing conclusions in not a lot of time. But my understanding is no Israeli ever took the trouble to actually do it, even though it's integral part of the culture, like the tea, the coffee, always the tea, the coffee, the cannibalism. Now, as I say, part of the issue is that that there was a purge during the 1980s. The purge mostly affected Israel up to the point that Israel was at the brink of collapse. And I spoke about it in another post, and I don't want to repeat myself. But yes, it was in the brink of collapse, and the United States and the USSR helped tremendously, so that the Israel will actually keep being alive and actually prosper. And I'm not so sure until now why they did it. Like I don't have the complete explanation because both of it, like the superpowers went out of their way, like I mean, to artificially, like I mean, revive this disgusting zombie that I mean that killed itself because of the stupidity and ego. But this kind of like I mean purge didn't affect only the Israeli intelligence agencies, but also the intelligence services of the Russians and the Americans, but not to the same extent. Mostly because, I mean, of course, this is the wrath of God. This is a punishment from God. You know that I mean, my first, like I mean, for me it's the first of all, like there is God, like and He created the world, and I mean, and like and you should like I mean find a way to get closer to Him and to obey, like I mean to follow his commands, like he's kind of like a God that expects things from you. He's like a father, like I mean that I mean He loves you, but He also I mean expects, like He has expectations. I mean, and if you do not fulfill that at all and you don't even try, so He's upset. So He's like a father. And that's, I mean, how He also sees, like, I mean, that's His model of, like, a relationship between Him and, I mean, the sentient creatures of this universe. So He also, I mean, that's how we view that. Like he's a father and they're the children. And I mean, He loves them, but He has expectations and He's upset when they are, I mean, basically it's what they probably that's what I mean. I've said it in the past. What most of you probably heard, like when you were in kindergarten, is probably an excellent approximation of reality regarding, I mean, theology. I mean, if you believe that, I mean, there is a kind of like a God that, I mean, is very old and with large beard, and He sits like in the sky, like on a stage of clouds, and there is kind of also like I mean angels, I mean, around Him, and He's kind of like He created this world, and kind of like He always watches people, and He wants them to be good to each other and to be good in general. And like when they die, He judges them, and if they are good, they send them to heaven, which is like a place with all sorts of like angels that are singing, and everybody's happy. But if they were bad, He's sending them to hell, and there's like demons that torture them. So most probably many of you, not all over the world, but in many parts of the world, that's what I mean you were taught when you were in kindergarten. And if you believe in this, you're mostly fine. You're mostly fine. I mean, that's, I mean, considering the circumstances like of this world, this picture is actually very good. First of all, it's a very good approximation of reality, and second, it's very beneficial to actually believe in this picture because it's mostly true. So where were we? This purge affected. It was the wrath of God, but at the same time, it was a physical phenomenon. I mean, as all. I mean, this is all. This is the way that I mean God. I mean manifests itself, like I mean in earth, and like it's part of the physical like a mechanism of this world. There are exceptions. I mean, this is actually discussed in the Talmud in an interesting way. Like I mean, but I mean, both like Jews and Muslims, like almost all of them, all over like I mean, the history believed, and up to this now, they believe that miracles are actually part of reality. Like I mean, the classical example is like I mean in the Bible is the book of Esther, like. kind of like, I mean, like a miracle that I mean that is part of, I mean, manifests itself as part of reality. So most Muslim and Jews always believe that this is like, I mean, this is how, like, I mean, God actually, like, I mean, creates miracles, and in general, I mean, this is how God rules the world. And it's kind of like an invisible hand. In Christianity, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's because they, I mean, for many, I mean, sects of Christianity, I mean, there is it's important, like, to believe, I mean, it's very important to believe, like, in that, I mean, in miracles that are by definition not part of like, I mean, the physical laws of, like, I mean, of nature. So it's, I mean, and it was always like that. I mean, it was very strong, like, I mean, kind of like a tenet of Christianity in the past. Today it's less so, but still, I mean, many, certainly Catholics, I mean, it's important for them, like, to believe that, I mean, that they are kind of like saints, and that they do miracles that are, I mean, by definition not things that, I mean, can be explained by physical laws of nature. But even though I consider myself Protestant Christian, I in some, like, aspect of theology, I still, I am, like, empathize. I mean, I like, I mean, I'm much more closer to classical views that, I mean, you can find in Judaism, in Islam, that are actually in many aspects of theology are much closer to each other than, I mean, than how much they are close to Christianity. It's like, I mean, there are all sorts of reasons for that, but so, I mean, yes, while I now consider myself, like, you know, Protestant Christian, and it's very important for me, and it was after, like, a long process, still part of my worldview and my understanding of theology are still rooted, like, in things, in ideas that you can find in Orthodox Judaism, and many times it's you can find equivalent ideas in Islam, because I mean, the history of these religions, that, I mean, they kind of like they evolved to get, I mean, the philosophical part of these religions were, I mean, they were, I mean, they evolved mostly, I mean, together, like, in both time and place, and many times, like, I mean, in contrast, I mean, kind of in conflict with Christianity. Anyway, so this was a physical phenomenon, and of course, I mean, the more you ate the tea, the more you punished. And in Israel, everybody ate the tea, so everyone died in the intelligence services. And it wasn't the case abroad, but some did, and some died, and some, I mean, had all sorts of, I mean, fertility issues, and all sorts of, like, health problems, up to this day, if you are still alive. And part of this purge was and of course, this was done by the cherubs. I mean, the starships are controlled by the cherubs. The starship that you see now, and, I mean, many of you have seen before, they are controlled by they are controlled by sentient beings that are called the cherubs, and this is the civilization that I represent. So, and you need to understand something. The cherubs, they also, I mean, they protect their own interests. Like, it would have been condescending for them, like, to take, like, a place of kind of, like, I mean, and superior beings, even though they are superior in almost any way that you can think of, but superior in a way that they're, like, not part of the game, like, they are gods. They are not gods. They believe in God, I mean, of course, but, I mean, they are not gods or God. And so they are part of, I mean, like, reality, and they need to protect their interests. And one of their interests is that the scumbags in Israel, in the world, will not, like, I mean, do too much harm to the representatives, even though if they're not necessarily cherubs. So part of this purge was aimed at, I mean, so people will actually intentionally forget about the knowledge that they had, in order to protect people that, I mean, I mean, of course, the person that I call my predecessor is, of course, I mean, a major, I mean, character in this drama of the 80s, and I've spoken about it, the guy in the Bicycle Saga series, but there were others, and that, I mean, and part of the crews wanted to protect them, and the way to do it was part of the solution was to delete, like, I mean, the memory of all sorts of events, and this purge actually helped to delete this memory and to protect these people. It wasn't the only like reason for the purge, but yes, it was part of it. And yes, all of this explained to some extent why, I mean, there is so much like ignorance, but it's still, I mean, I even taking all of this into account, I still, like, I'm always like surprised by it. I mean, how little people understand. Like, I mean, they don't know nothing, and again, I do not belong to any intelligence agency. I grew up like as a Homo sapiens. No one told me otherwise, and up to this day, I mean, everything that I've discovered was, I mean, without any help of other intelligence, of any intelligence service in Israel or abroad, just kind of like, I mean, an investigation and solo discovery journey. I mean, you know, with the help of, I mean, solo, but with the help of our intelligence agency. We also have an intelligence agency of our own, but I mean, it's the Trinity, you know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So I mean, the Holy Ghost is I mean, the Holy Ghost is really is a wicked one. I mean, and he's like a very good mind to prosperity to intelligence operations. So yes, I mean, I'm so at one end, I'm so, I mean, angry on like those titans abroad that I mean tortured me and didn't offer me any help, and even if they didn't believe the lies, they just thought that I'm kind of like, I mean, I don't know, like I'm like an astral projection, like I'm kind of like an like transcendental being that do not require money or protection or and I mean, I have daughters, I'm a father, and I mean, I need to be with them, I need to give them shelter, and I mean, what do you want to understand here? I mean, what do you think that, I mean, what do you think that I eat? Like, I mean, when I go to like the supermarket to buy food, do I pay like with sermons, like with this, like sermons on the hill, or I don't know, like I don't know what. That they listen to my sermons and it's like, I mean, it's instead of money. No, I need money. Why can't you understand it? Why can't you understand this simple fact? And you've taken so much from me. But so this, I mean, I'm just discouraged me for speaking about all sorts of issues that, I mean, I feel like, I mean, again, I'm like giving gold to pigs. But on the other hand, we should take into account that first, I mean, this is I mean, especially the interest of the Israelis, that I will shut my mouth. That's why they do all these charades and like torture. And sometimes like they get what they want. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes the evil guys win many times. And yes, many times, I mean, they have success like in shutting me, because not because I fear I fear from them, but because I'm so angry like on people all around the world, and specifically so angry like about the titans in this world, that like I feel that they do not deserve like that I will speak to them. Like, I mean, they do not deserve my knowledge. But and that's how I felt like yesterday and today, and I still feel it. But we should not play. I mean, we should try not to play into the hands of these devils, the Israelis. So this is one, like, I mean, consideration why, yes, I should speak about things that I know, even though I'm so angry, like, and I feel that the audience is made out of pigs. But there are other consideration, and one consideration is that it was something that I always say, that I mean, it's kind of these videos are, for me, they are a documentation. I myself listen to these videos in order to, I mean, to recall things. I mean, I'm not like a supercomputer. I need like a place to, like, I mean, and so it's important for me to listen to my own videos to recall and and to to analyze again things that I've thought about in the past. So and because otherwise I will forget those issues. So so this is another and of course I don't have to upload it to YouTube, but I need some. But very quickly, the storage in this iPhone, this is very technical, but it's true. Very quickly, there is no more storage. So, and in YouTube, you have unlimited storage. So, this was always one of the considerations. Why should I upload material? Because I need a place for my own purposes and for me to be able to reminiscent and to recall things that I've thought about in the past. So I don't want to forget things that, and like everyone, I'm prone to forgetting things. So this is also in consideration in favor of speaking about also my conclusions regarding science and also history and politics, and specifically my origin and on parallel the Venusian state. The Venusian planet, the planet Venus and its occupants, which is currently the subject of where we stand in this saga of the Ziggurat of Ur. And there is also another consideration which is much more, urgent, and that is that, yes, I follow, even though I'm very angry and upset and tired, I still follow your comments to my posts, and today I understood that many of you, reached very wrong conclusions and regarding the history of the planet Venus and I feel that if I leave it like that, I just be part of this kind of this information machine, and that's I will just what will actually happen is that these videos only contributed to the spread of more disinformation, and it's not it's of course something that I do not want. So even though I'm so sad and tired and really disgusted by the people of this earth, I don't want to spread more information. So I should speak about. I will try to correct some of your conclusions, because yes, as I've said in the previous video, the thing that I understand most listeners or watchers did understand correct is that the conspiracy regarding Venus was planned right from the beginning of the Venera project, but they didn't want people to know about what's going on over there, and certainly they didn't want people to know about the gate and about the fact that there are aliens on Earth. So they thought, if they will say that there are 10 atmospheres, which makes kind of sense, and this is totally unhospitable to humans, so people will just will kind of forget about the planet, and it's covered with clouds. So and so that was the thought behind the first Venera probes, and the Americans, of course, were fine with it. But then the ranger, the American probe, discovered they've seen something on the planet Venus, and yes, all of you, or most of you understand correctly that they've seen something that was a proof that actually, at least at some point in time, the civilization was not Paleolithic, but actually much more advanced, or that a civilization that is much more advanced than Paleolithic actually had significant footprints on the planet Venus, and they've seen these footprints. And there's a question what they actually have seen, even though it's not incredibly important. It's not incredibly important, and it was kind of like a riddle, and I think almost no one actually gets the correct answer. I would say just now, even at that point, I would say that the most, by far the most common answer was that they've seen spaceships of the type that you now see using your telescopes, like the Sayeret Cherub, the Kerubian cruisers. This answer is both wrong and also it doesn't make sense. But I will elaborate later why it's wrong and why it doesn't make sense, and I will actually tell you, the correct answer, which might be surprising. But when you have the information regarding, when you have, it's not that surprising when you have when you have I wouldn't say the complete picture, but a very important part of the picture that I guess most of you just don't have because of all of this secrecy in this information. But yes, they have seen footprints of advanced civilization, and they didn't know immediately what to make of it. And probably until now, the Russians and the Americans don't have. Who are the Russians and Americans? They're the politicians, the army, the intelligence agency. If the intelligence agencies, are so confused as we say, so who? How can you expect other people to be less confused? If these people, their profession is to know stuff, they don't know nothing. So who knows? It's kind of like a very, it's kind of like a Socrates-like, situation that you kind of understand that nobody knows nothing. It's kind of amazing. So but certainly they didn't have an immediate kind of agenda, and probably even until now 60 years later they still don't have a kind of unified agenda on the matter. But they freaked out about what they've seen, so they hastily proposed that to change the conspiracy and to say that the atmosphere pressure is 19 atmospheres, which doesn't make any sense from planetary science point of view, and it means that this planet is a hell. Because they wanted, because they were freaked out of what they've seen, and they already didn't want people to know about the true nature of Venus. That's why they manufactured the 10 atmosphere conspiracy. But 10 atmospheres is something that as I said, it's 100 meters below the water. So people do it mostly with of course with diving apparatus and not for a long time, and you need to be trained for it. It's not a depth for novices, but yes, it can be done. So and even and some people, this is extremely rare feat, and it's only done for a second. But some even dive to this depths without equipment at all. I think that the record is the 130 or 127 meters below the water without equipment. But this is extreme. So they thought, okay, maybe people will actually try to do sort of kind of extreme sport in the future. Maybe not in the immediate future, kind of in the near future, because in the 60s everybody saw that we are entering the space age, and very soon we'll have cities in the moon, and and we'll go to Mars, and there was so much optimism in the 60s that probably most of these people from the 60s, if they have known the current state of space exploration of humans during the year 2023, they would have been completely surprised, of that presumably not much was done. I appreciate the effort for the people that actually have done things, but from the point of view of people in the 60s, they saw that we will soon, all of us we'll have vacations on the moon, Phobos, or whatever. So from that point of view, they didn't. They thought, okay, maybe this is the future, and we don't want Venus to be part of this future, because they were freaked out. So they manufactured the hell theory, and actually, probably because they did it together, both the Americans and the Russians, and so there was so much power in their hands. So they actually managed to disseminate this completely fake and irrational theory, but this was very successful conspiracy, because starting from 1964, No one speaks about Venus almost at all, like in the public discourse. And people speak about the moon, they speak about Mars, even like I mean, there is kind of a discussion, I mean, which is more modern regarding also like, I mean, very distant moons, like, I mean, Titan and Europa, Ganymedes, but no one speaks about Venus, because yes, it was a immensely successful conspiracy. And people, I mean, they learned very early that, I mean, it's hell, 90 atmospheres, and I don't know, 500 Celsius. So, I mean, nobody even think about going there. This is not entirely true, because today there is like a theory of the clouds, and I mean, and there is a old theory of like cloud cities, and this is all very interesting. Even though it's science fiction, it's not science, because I mean it's based on completely false facts. But it's interesting, like, I mean, from like, I mean, theoretical perspective, not of Venus itself, but of like maybe there are like Venus-like. I mean, that presumably, I mean, kind of like, I mean, from theoretical perspective, I mean, the idea of planets that the surface is completely hostile to humans, but maybe the upper layers of the atmospheres are actually incredibly comfortable to humans, which is kind of like the theory, approximately the theory regarding Venus. So, I mean, there are also like, I mean, ideas of like cities in the clouds and huge zeppelins, and I mean, it's very interesting, but of course it's all fraud, I mean, regarding Venus. But it was a successful conspiracy, because people don't think at all about, like, people just don't think about Venus. So they got what they wanted. You should believe it, like, I mean, that no one will actually think about it. Like, I mean, it will be out of the question, because they were freaked by what they've seen. So yes, even though I mean, the solution to the riddle, I mean, almost no one actually proposed the correct solution, and the great majority proposed the Caribbean's battleship solution, which, I mean, I understand what, I mean, I kind of like, I mean, and I do not mock you for, I mean, for this, because yes, I understand why. I mean, I was, in a way, I was kind of like, maybe not deliberately, but I was kind of like, I mean, pushing to this kind of like conclusion, even though it's completely false. But I understand why, I mean, you thought along those lines. But this is both not true, and that doesn't make sense. Anyway, without too much further introduction, I will say that, and with this regard to the solution of the riddle, or with, I mean, in the most, I mean, better say that, I mean, indirectly it relates, of course, to the solution of the riddle, but as kind of like a consequence of my videos on this series, the Ziggurat of Ur series, I understand that many people now, I mean, for that listen or watches these these videos, they have very wrong ideas regarding the nature of Venus and its history, and I see it like as and kind of like, I mean, I cannot, I mean, like sole the responsibility for this, and I that's something that I don't want, like, I mean, to be, like, I mean, to contribute to more disinformation. So I need to correct these theories, and like, and to propose alternative theories that are, even though I'm not certain about like every part of it, but they are supported by evidence, and they make more sense, and they are probably correct, I mean, true, and certainly they are much more correct than, I mean, the things that many of you actually came to understand. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, as a possible a consequence of the things that I spoke about. What I will do now, I haven't planned it, but I will work on this. I mean, I'll soon start a new video, and I will work on these spaceships. And while I do it, what I will do is that I will actually break like I mean, subvert your expectations, and as they say, and I will break like the normal, like I mean, the format that I used until now, and I will dedicate the next video to tell you a fairy tale. So this is not a new fairy tale. I thought about this fairy tale in kind of like I articulated to myself this fairy tale, I mean, when I was like, I mean, in one of my journeys in the desert, like about like 2 years ago, and kind of like with the also like, I mean, desert. The desert is a great place for divinations. It was always like that, and I really like the desert. Like not only in Israel, also like I mean other deserts. Like I mean, like I really like the state of Utah. I think it's amazing. The desert is like a great place for divinations and meditations. So about 2 years ago, I had like a kind of like, I mean, spiritual, I mean, experience, and as a result, I articulated to myself a fairy tale. I'm using the word articulated and not like invented or written, because I haven't written it, and I should say right now that some parts will actually sound familiar to many of you, probably. But instead of like, I mean, let's stop this analysis and just, I mean, get to business. So I'll stop this video and soon I'll start a new one. And this will be a fairy tale that I would say invented, but based on all sorts of like divinations, and also based on true events, and also it heavily resonates with all sorts of like mythologies and fairy tales from the history of this world. So you might find some parts like recognizable. Of course, it's not that, I mean, it's just like, I mean, that I of course, I mean, there is a reason. I mean, obviously, this fairy tale have implications to our discussion.